Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you for informing me about the time, and I will ensure I do my best to get the 7 minutes in and then take my remaining time at the next sitting. Mr. Speaker, I'm very proud to stand today to offer my support for Bill S-209, an act to amend the Criminal Code prize fights. The rules governing prize fights have not been updated since 1934, Mr. Speaker, and the current legislation simply does not represent the reality of what is happening in Canada. Mr. Speaker, under the Criminal Code as it stands, boxing is the only combative sport that is permitted, and even then only in certain circumstances. So having this law, Mr. Speaker, that we turn a blind eye to is bad on two fronts. One, it can begin to undermine the legitimacy of other laws, which is bad for our legal system as a whole. And two, it creates uncertainty for people who organize or participate in sports such as mixed martial arts, commonly referred to as MMA. It is therefore timely for this House to address the discrepancy between what is written in statute, Mr. Speaker, and how the law is applied. And in my opinion, Mr. Speaker, this bill strikes the right balance by allowing provinces and municipalities or designated regulatory bodies such as an athletic commission to allow MMA, as defined by the bill, in their territory without breaching the criminal code. So what exactly does this bill do, Mr. Speaker? Well, prize fights will remain illegal in Canada, and this bill goes further in defining a prize fight by adding feet to the definition to include fights in which combatants use their feet as well as their fists and hands. But the bill, Mr. Speaker, then lists 4 exceptions to the definition of prize fights. These exceptions are not prize fights, but rather authorized combative sports. The first is contests between amateur athletics participating in sports on the program of the International Olympic Committee or the International Paralympic Committee, Mr. Speaker. This exception covers sports including boxing, fencing, Greco-Roman wrestling, freestyle wrestling, and Taekwondo. The second and third exceptions are for contests between amateur athletes in sports designated by the province or a body appointed by the province. These exemptions cover sports such as karate, kickboxing, and mixed boxing, depending on that province, Mr. Speaker. The fourth and final exception covers professional contests and states that they are only exempted from the prize fight ban and only if the fight is, and I quote, held with the permission or under the authority of an athletic board, commission, or similar body established by or under the authority of the province's legislature for the control of the sport within the province, Mr. Speaker. A number of provinces, such as Ontario, Quebec, and Manitoba, as well as municipalities such as Edmonton and Calgary, have already acted and changed their definition of combat sports in order to allow MMA. By passing this bill, Parliament will simply be updating our legislation to make it consistent with the laws in these places, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, it is important to note that no province or municipality, depending on which level of government regulates combative sports in that province, will be obliged to allow MMA. The ultimate choice still rests with them, Mr. Speaker. There is significant growth in the popularity of MMA in Canada. Like many Canadians, I spent the last Saturday evening watching UFC 159 on TV, and UFC events have filled arenas such as the Bell Centre in Montreal and the Air Canada Centre in Toronto. The Ultimate Fighting Championship, or UFC, is the largest mixed martial arts promotion company in the world. And Georges St-Pierre, one of the biggest stars in UFC and the current welterweight champion, is from Saint-Isidore, Quebec. He boasted a 24-2 record in MMA and was named Sportsnet's Athlete of the Year in 2008, 2009, and in 2010, Mr. Speaker. But while GSP may be the most renowned Canadian in the UFC, he is not the only one. For example, Mitch Gagnon trains out of my own riding in Sudbury, and after having an 8-1 record in MMA, he recently joined the UFC. His first contest was in July last year at UFC 149 in Calgary, and he recorded his first win at UFC 152 in Toronto last September. Mitch trains at Team Shredder, which is housed in the Northern Ontario Multidiscipline Athletic Arts Academy in Sudbury. NAMDA, for short, trains students in mixed martial arts, tactical sambo, Brazilian jiu-jitsu, Muay Thai kickboxing, Russian sistema, wrestling, judo, and Yushindo, as well as offering cardio circuit training and athletic development, Mr. Speaker. They have a proven track record of training champions as well as ensuring a positive, motivating, and fulfilling experience for all students, including myself, Mr. Speaker. Yves Charette, the owner-operator, he and I spoke this week, and they have over 150 students, both adults and children, and he's very focused on providing confidence building for many of the young children that are participating in many of these martial arts, Mr. Speaker. And one of the things that I know it's helping my own daughter with is confidence. And we're talking a lot about anti-bullying programs, Mr. Speaker. When you can provide children with confidence, it actually goes a long way in ensuring that bullying at schools will not happen. And that's some of the things that is very important when you're talking about karate or any type of sport where children can gain confidence. If it's mixed martial arts, if it's hockey, if it's football, if it's basketball, if it's canoeing, if it provides confidence for children, it's doing something right. And I also know, Mr. Speaker, at NAMDA, they've been able, they're a not-for-profit, I forgot to mention as well. They've received funding from the Chief of Police Youth Initiative Fund, which is also taking kids off the street and providing them with training and giving them something to do with their time and to learn and to, again, build that confidence. So I'm very proud of what NAMDA is doing in Sudbury, Mr. Speaker. How much time do I have left, Mr. Speaker? Half a minute? Well, with that 30 seconds, Mr. Speaker, what I'll do is I'll save the final piece for my next time. But, you know, I want to thank organizations like NAMDA and the other amateur athletic groups that are doing great work from coast to coast to coast in this country. And I think this bill will actually allow us to see it at the professional level and hopefully inspire kids to get involved and gain that confidence. And with that, thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Bravo.